bad movie. Borderlands is a dumb, stupid movie based on a dumb, stupid video game franchise made by a dumb, stupid company called Gearbox Software. They started out by making expansions for the original Half-Life and would go on to make Battleborn, Aliens, Colonial Marines, and Duke Nukem Forever, which are not good video games. Now, Borderlands, despite its flaws or whatever criticisms that you may have heard, might well be their most prolific and celebrated franchise. I mean, it's a lot better than Dick Dukem whatever, I can tell you that. When I first played Borderlands 2, I was in high school and they put it on PS Plus, so I got it for free. I was hooked pretty much immediately. It was a game with a lot of loud noises, a lot of bells and whistles, unique art direction, great soundtrack. It constantly throws all kinds of big numbers at you. Dying just takes away money, so there's no way you can really lose. Every single time you kill somebody, your character says something like, "Cool story, bro." There's an enemy called Psycho Midget, qu'est-ce que c'est? And the game always finds an excuse to say the word badass at every conceivable interval. I thought it couldn't get any cooler than that. But then again, my favorite movie back then was Scott Pilgrim. As I got older, I started branching out and playing other stuff, really broadening my horizons out here. I played a game called Dark Souls, if you ever heard of that. I couldn't help but become more critical of Borderlands as I was exposed to more games and realized that, yeah, it actually can get better than that. That being said, there is still a special place in my heart for this series. It's a guilty pleasure, it's something that's there when I don't know what else to play. It's like if you had the option of eating prime rib every single night, that'd be incredible, but sometimes you just want McDonald's, you know what I mean? That's what Borderlands is to me, it's McDonald's. The Borderlands movie is more like Burger King. I do not like Burger King. After several delays and at least one round of reshoots, homie, what even is this movie? By now, we have generally evolved past the point where a video game movie is already terrible before it even comes out. The Sonic movies were alright, Mario movie was a lot of fun, Five Nights at Freddy's, I liked that one, Detective Pikachu wasn't so bad, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is actually legitimately good, and so is The Last of Us, at least I thought. I haven't seen the Fallout show, but they tell me it's also very well done. And no, I didn't forget about Halo, but at least they had the decency to cancel it, right? The bar for video game adaptations is not extraordinarily high right now, but it is higher than it has ever been before, and unfortunately for the Borderlands movie, we have a much better understanding of what works and what doesn't because we've had, by some definition, proof of concept either way. We are no longer in a position where we go, well, it's a video game movie, what are you gonna do? Because we know that it doesn't have to be that way. I will say, logistically, that I imagine something like Mario is easier to adapt because the premise of Mario is so simplistic that the goal just becomes writing scenarios that enable him to do Mario stuff. You cannot really apply the same strategy to a game with as many plot developments, moving parts, and a highly defined world as Borderlands without losing something in the process, which is probably why Last of Us and Fallout chose to be TV shows instead of 2-hour movies. I knew this wasn't going to be a good movie ever since it was announced, but I did expect it to be an entertaining, guilty pleasure type movie, kinda like how I feel about the games these days. And it would be such an improvement if that was the case. But no, Borderlands is a hugely generic, run-of-the-mill PG-13 action movie that you watch once and you go, and then you walk away and forget about it. There are movies that are bad in a funny way, like Netflix's live-action Death Note movie, and then there are movies that are just the normal kind of bad, like the dumbass Slender Man movie. This is closer to that, but with more jokes about diarrhea. Eli Roth, who directed the movie, said that viewers should shut their brain off while watching and have a good time. Well, I got the first part down. Maybe this could have been a shut your brain off popcorn movie if there weren't so many others to choose from that already fill that void much more effectively. If you have seen any over-budget, overhyped, bum-ass, Best Buy bargain bin booty-ass $3.95 action movie, you've experienced pretty much everything that this movie has to offer already. Even right down to shoehorning Motorhead's Ace of Spades to make one scene seem slightly cooler than it actually is. I mean, it's not like they were gonna play Cage the Elephant's No Rest for the Wicked because that's something that the source material might do. That is the first song you hear in the series. It plays when you start a new file. That was everybody's introduction to the Borderlands universe. Never occurred to them to use it. There is nothing special or particularly compelling about this movie, even if, perhaps especially if, you're still an avid fan of Borderlands. This is an old-fashioned kind of video game movie where they start by aiming for vague aesthetic symmetry to the source material and then after that just wing it. There are like 2 or 3 parts that are kinda cool the first time you see them, and they're all in the trailers, so you can just watch those for free. If it wasn't obvious from those trailers, the Borderlands movie is not an adaptation of any of the games specifically, but rather a self-contained alternative Borderlands story, if you will. Eli Roth explained that this is not canon to the games and is basically its own thing, a fun sci-fi movie that tries to be a mix of Star Wars, Mad Max, Escape from New York, and I guess whatever else he thinks is cool. I understand wanting to do something different, but it almost sounds like the Borderlands source material to him is more like a conduit for a bunch of goofy, totally awesome crap that he just really wants to do, but can't do in any other context because it wouldn't make money. Then again, it doesn't seem like this one is making money either. The nicest thing I can say about this movie is that it's almost kinda cute sometimes, which is already more than Rotten Tomatoes can say, because that's just the kind of person I am. Randy Pitchford said in an interview that he's happy to have made a Borderlands story that his mom can get into, which explains just about everything, like why an M-rated video game got turned into a PG-13 movie. First off, what in the ever-loving fuckaroni are these casting choices? It almost feels like somebody just went, well, these actors were great in some other thing that I watched, so we're just gonna use them. There are some highlights though. They got the guy who plays Dutch from Red Dead to be Marcus. That was very unexpected. I kinda liked him, but he's only in there for a few minutes. Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis almost fits, even though she's 65 years old, but I mean, it's not like she chose to be 65 years old, right? Jack Trap, Black Trap as Claptrap is whatever, like it's Claptrap, whatever.
If you shot the gate now, that could cause serious damage to me, so don't do that. I'm just standing here to show you the area you should shoot after I move away, which I will once I'm totally convinced you understand the instructions that I'm relaying to you. Do you understand? I know it's kind of complicated, but just stick with me, okay? Look, when it's okay for you to shoot this gate with the cannon, I'll say something like, shoot the gate with the cannon now! But that was just a test, right? You didn't shoot the gate with...
Krieg was kind of funny. He's just a big dumb idiot that yells and smashes stuff. He's kind of like me, really. You might be wondering who plays Brick and who plays Mordecai. Yeah, me too. At a roughly hour-and-a-half runtime, the pacing is rough. I would almost describe it as a stream of consciousness type movie, where it often felt like stuff just keeps happening with relatively little breathing room. Maybe the director's cut will have a half-hour sequence of Roland trying to farm the bee shield off of one specific enemy so he can beat Terramorphous without having a stroke. I would say the humor lands somewhere between a forgettable DreamWorks movie and something worse, I guess. When it's not trying to be funny or badass by whatever metrics that's based on, it tries to reach for some emotional moments which don't really work because the movie doesn't spend the proper amount of time developing the characters or their interpersonal dynamics for it to stick the landing. I could come up with all kinds of long-winded pseudo-academic explanations as to why this movie is ass, but the honest-to-God truth is that I can't really think of any better way to describe it than saying it's forgettable. My decision to make a video about this movie is pretty much the only reason I'm really thinking about it as much as I am. If I wasn't, the movie would have gone in one way and out the other, just whoosh. It's just a good thing that I'm not as attached to the games as I used to be, and as a result, it doesn't hurt me on such a deep level as it might have if I was still the biggest fan. If this exact movie came out exactly as it is back when I was playing Borderlands 2, I could picture myself being way more upset. But at least then I might actually feel something. This movie just kinda makes me feel empty and blank, and I feel bad for the production staff and crew and anyone who was down in the dirt working on it because everything seemed to be going against it from the beginning. It's a movie based on an IP that hasn't been in its prime for a while, spearheaded by people who don't seem to care particularly much about it one way or another, And it had the tremendous misfortune of following up several video game adaptations that were actually competent. And unfortunately, I cannot say I was particularly surprised by any of that. And that's what it is. The movie was not good, and that fact was not a surprise. And with all that, I gotta run, because you know what they say, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Or the stupid, I guess.